I love that all of y'all have moved in. Y'all have been working on all kinds of great things. And so for all of y'all on our social media, you have not met our newest artists in residence. And so we are going to jump right in and see what these ladies are up to. First, we have Monica Pate. She has been in Poland, so she won't be joining us today, but she is our College Station artist in residence, and she will be with us next month. She is in Poland, so it's super awesome to have her be part of our artist in residency program here in College Station. But we do have Sienna Smith with us, and she is part of the Navasota Artist in Residency program. And Sienna, I want you to introduce yourself, tell us why you decided to get involved with this program, and then we're going to look at a few pieces of your artwork.
Thank you, Cherie, so much for having me here. So my name is Sienna Smith. I graduated last year from California College of the Art. I got my MFA in 2021. And as an artist, it's such a privilege to be able to get into a residency program and where you can focus on your art and just, in your art practice. So it's not easy for me. I tried many months and finally I got in, go through the application and interview process. I'm just very, very grateful that I am here. Very grateful that the city of Navasota and provide us with this space to have our first, very first solo exhibition, and also the living space and the studio space.
Well, we're happy to have you, and just, there was tons of applicants and your work just really stood out, yours and Sarah's, and I'm super excited that y'all said yes. And one of my favorite things about your work is it's huge. Oh my gosh, it is so big and I absolutely love it. And I think this first piece that you've done gives you a great example of some of the work that you do. And give us a little bit of background about what's going on in this piece.
Yeah, this piece, the size is 4 feet by 5 feet, so 60 by 48 inches. The title is a bunch of numbers. So the first number 9.9.2020, that's the date, September 9th of 2020. And then the following that string of number is longitude and the latitude of Bay Shore Roundhouse in Northern California, just south of San Francisco. Wow. So on this day, this California wildfire have burned thousands and thousands of acres in California, Northern California, Southern California. And on that day, that fume just blanket the San Francisco Bay Area and gave this very eerie apocalyptic sky. And the one in the painting is actually my daughter. She decided, she gets sent home from college, shelter in place, stayed home, but she made plans with friends to explore those graffiti side, and she just decided to go. So I, as a mother, has complex feeling. On one hand, I worry for her safety because in that biohazard, hazardous atmosphere, and she is going out there. I don't like that. But on the other hand, she, as a young teenager, want to explore this world. I'm just thinking about, in this dilapidated world, we giving to the next generation, and how she insists on living no matter what, and want to exploring, gave me a sense of hope, how this young generation, want to live their life. So it's a mixed feeling. Yeah, it's a mixed feeling for me.
No, and I can actually really see that, especially with what's going on with the mural, but then also in the background, and just having that yellow brightness to me is I don't know, yellow still makes me happy. no matter what's going on. And I feel like I can see a sense of hope through that. That's really, I really like how you put that together.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Sarah, that's pretty big on the wall, isn't it?
It is massive, and I highly encourage everybody to come by the Horlock house and see not only just this piece, but all of her pieces. They're very big. They have a lot of presence, and you really just dive into the work when you look at it.
Mm-hmm. And your pieces are fantastic too. So we're going to get to you in a second. So, yeah. And here's another piece that Sienna's did, and I love this. So at y'all's opening, I got to chat with your husband about what's going on here, and I just got the biggest kick because this is so true about what's happening in this picture. So please tell us what's going on in it.
So this painting is a triptych. So each is 24 by 48. So together is 72 inches by 48 inches. The title of this painting is called The Family Time. So I'm sort of like referring to how at my childhood, family time means family get together, face each other, you know, share stories, chatting. But this is my family. You know, I took this picture about 2 years ago. It's really Christmas time. And all our 4 children, they stay in the same room, but like they face their screen, like back to each other. But what's ironic is they are all playing the same game. So virtual world, they are face to face, even fighting or like playing the game together. So what I'm questioning in this artwork is how technology, right, as a version of commodity, how that impact this next generation, how that impact our life. So I just want to have a conversation with my audience.
No, I love it because that is a lot of how, you know, next week when we're home for Thanksgiving with our families, you know, a lot of electronics are going to be around, a lot of people staring at their own screens. And so it really makes you think about, okay, what is your family life? What are you doing about that? And I think it's great that all your kids can play a game together. Instead of doing a board game, they're doing it, you know, virtually. But then when it's time to have that Christmas dinner and that kind of thing, y'all can explore more of what's happening.
Right.
But I think some families skip that still, even, you know, they're still glued to the screens. And so I feel like it's a very powerful thing to show this is what some families look like during the holidays.
Right.
Yeah. It's a huge difference than my family. Like we have to turn in our phones unless we're going to take a picture of what's happening. And so yeah, it's Juju's got some rules on us, so which is good.
Good rule.
Yeah, good rule. But she does let us take pictures of what's happening and that kind of thing. But at the dinner table, we do have to mind our phones. So that's really good. And then this next one you have, I think is pretty fun. It took me a minute to kind of figure it out when I was at the Horlock house for your opening. But then once I figured it out, I was like, oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Yeah, that's this painting in my background. So it
Yes.
is 4 feet by 5 feet. So yeah, 48 by 60 inches. So I like to use large than life scale and the vivid color, and also detailed rendering to emphasize my subject and also subject matter. So this is actually my first body of work. Part of my first body of work is called commodity. So this one is like a stack of purses, right? And just leaning sideways on the top, on the left, upper left, you can see a skull. So I'm borrowing some of the concept of the Vanitas, you know, the Netherlandish painting, you know, everything's going to go away, you know, and so I paint things around myself. I questioning, you know, why me individually and women collectively have so many purses, more than one, accessories, right? And what does that mean to us as women? What does that do to the male gaze, And so it's not just pretty stuff. It's actually have a dark side to it. It's like, I want, again, discuss this in a social and psychological context.
Wow.
Yeah, so after these commodities, which I picked up again, the first months still these first 2 months, I have been doing more commodity series after a new understanding of myself. So my painting is really from my background. I just go deeper inside, what do I care about? Why? Why do I own so many things? Why, it's like inside thinking and digging more. And so, yeah. I know sometimes my paintings can kind of controversial, people asking whether, oh, are you worshiping those? Or I'm trying to put like subtle symbolic things, the skull, the cross, what are we really worshiping here?
Yes.
Is that what's the most important things in our lives? Does that really satiate those desire, So I like symbol, yeah.
And so what I like about this is, like, when I see it, I just see beautiful handbags, and I love handbags and I love shoes. And so that's what I see in it. And I love the colors, but what I appreciate is you take it and go deeper with the why you painted it, why you put a cross in, what's the deal with the skull. Like, those are things that I would have never thought about unless you said what you were really doing. And so that goes deeper into your why and what you picked to do. And so I never would have thought about that.
Oh,
So
thank you.
Thank you.
I think I believe that's to the artist. So once my art is out in the world, people see it, it's in the eyes of the beholder. So then everybody who take it whichever way, it's all our individual experience, our individuality, it's all fine.
Yes, but make you think. I mean, that's what art is supposed to do, is to make you look at something deeper, and it tells a story, and I bet you someone who absolutely loves blue has a totally different view of what this is, where someone who hates blue would have a totally different idea about it. And
Sure.
A person who is a purse collector would probably tell us more than we wanted to know about these purses, and then you come in and say, like, the why behind it. It's really interesting to me how one piece can say a million things and then some, but move you in a direction that you would have never thought that you would go in by just looking.
Thank you, Shereen. You
Fantastic.
said it.
Oh, thank you. All right, Miss Sarah, your turn. All right. So for those that don't know anything about you, please give us a little bit of background about who you are and why the Artist in Residency program.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me, Cherie. As always, you are such a wonderful commentator here.
Well, thank you. This is your first go around. You better watch out now.
But yes, I'm Sarah Nevius. I guess I'm based in San Antonio, but I wasn't born there, but I've been there for the last couple years. I recently graduated with my Bachelor in Fine Arts this past May. And so pretty much like a month after I graduated, I started applying to residencies all over the country. And I was very fortunate to get the Navasota Artist in Residence. And it's been such a blessing. I was really looking for an opportunity to not only make more work, but just have life experience. I think all of this is so important, doing interviews and holding shows and learning how to talk about your art and learning to talk to people. all of this along with making art was really beneficial, I think, to me in my career and getting to meet other artists. So I'm very excited to be here and not only make more portraiture and figurative work, which is what I normally do, but also branch out a little bit and do a couple different types of subject matter that I haven't done before. So
I love it. So here's your first piece you sent me. So tell me what's going on here.
yes, so this is one piece that I did in a whole body of work. It's really special to me because it was kind of my first attempt at making a series of something rather than just an individual drawing or painting. So I made this back in 2019. I was a sophomore in college, and body image has always been an issue with a lot of women in my family. It really has changed my whole life growing up, the way we perceive ourselves and our bodies and the way our body functions compared to how we look at the outside. So I was really thinking about that. And this is one drawing I did of my mom. She's a type 1 diabetic. And I went to ask a bunch of people what their biggest insecurity was and then rendered it in charcoal and chalk into something beautiful. And this one's really special to me. She was really insecure about her insulin pump on her stomach. And I wanted to show it as something redemptive. It's beautiful in that it's saving her life again and again, year after year. And so I love it. And I think it's beautiful because it gives me the opportunity to be with my mom every day. And so that was just a really special body of work I did a couple years ago. And my first real shot at doing charcoal and chalk, which is what I do now still.
Wow, what an amazing story. And your mom is so full of life.
She's great.
She is awesome. Both of your parents are. I love it. I mean, with your dad forgetting something, oh darn, I have to bring it back. He has to make another trip to Navasota. But I would have never known that about your mom because your mom is very full of life, full of energy.
Yeah. And she's never let it stop her from doing what she wants to do. And I really admire that about her. And I wanted to appreciate her in this work.
Wow. And that's and I bet your mom never really thought about what it means to you that she does that. So
yeah. And I have a little tidbit. So when I did this a couple years ago, she follows like a type 1 diabetic Facebook page or something where a lot of people follow it, and she posted it on there. And it got a lot of responses from people who have insulin pumps and were just really honored to see their condition represented like that, and that was just really touching to see people be moved by such a piece.
Wow. I love that. That's very, very unique. And do you have this one hanging up at the Horlock house now?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Sienna, what do you think? What do you think of this piece hanging?
I just think Sarah's work is amazing. Her chiaroscuro is perfect. Her detail, like the rendering is really masterfully done. And her work individually, I can just spend a lot of time, but collectively, it has another kind of power just because she has like 40.
Because look at all those things behind her. That whole collective, yes.
Strongly recommend people, if you haven't come to the Horlock house to see her work, it totally worth a visit. To see it in person, all those collective work. Very powerful message. Yeah.
Amanda, what do you think about this? Her first go around and doing charcoal. I would have never guessed that was her first go around. Would you? Oh, you're on mute, Amanda.
Thank you. No, this is excellent. And we were speaking earlier today, just in brief passing about charcoal, and I think she's off to a significant start. I would like to echo Sienna's thoughts about that. And I was really blessed to be able to go see the work by both these talented ladies some weeks ago, and I encourage people to go see them in person.
Yeah. You can't beat in person with artists. You just can't. Y'all have got stories to tell. Y'all do. I love it. So what's going on in this one, Sarah?
So this is kind of a part of that other picture with all those portraits in the background.
Yeah.
I did a body of work titled Ipsady my senior year of college this past spring. And I wanted to talk about identity. I think we live in a very divisive culture right now, especially since COVID. I think that divided us physically and metaphorically. And so I wanted to create unity amongst people. And so I just started interviewing people off the street, strangers, friends, family, and ask them to tell their story and about their life and what do they think it means to be a human. And if they could describe their identity, their core, what would they say? And so I wanted to kind of represent these people and their stories through my language, which is through portraiture and figurative work. So I interviewed them, I photographed them, I turned them into both charcoal drawings and acrylic paintings, as you can see here. And I wanted to create unity amongst people. You know, despite our differences, we're all humans at the end of the day, and we can form connections regardless. And so this was done after I did all those charcoal portraits because I needed a break. I was covered in charcoal, and I wanted to try something a little different. I hadn't done a lot of, you know, like painting portraits. I've done mostly drawing portraits, and so I wanted to really dive down in my style and my technique, especially my brush application in painting portraits. And so that was what this one was kind of about, not only rendering her identity, but also working on my technical aspects as well. Interestingly, I I discovered something called the Zorn palette that this past spring, which is a limited palette of 4 colors, black, white, yellow ochre, and vermilion. And I wanted to try it. I've never tried a limited palette before. And, you know, I think color theory can get really stressful sometimes and overcomplicated. And so I wanted to just dial it down and stick to 4 colors and see what I can make out of that. And so this is kind of the product of that. It's of my friend Gwen, and she wanted to really focus on her identity as both a woman and feeling confident and having the female gaze and not just the male gaze. So.
Wow. That's beautiful. I would have never thought that it was a limited color palette.
Yeah. Who knew? Who knew you're allowed to not use every color?
Right. But then we go to this piece and it seems like you only use 2, right?
Yes. So this was a part of the charcoal series of Ipsady. This was a gentleman I interviewed in Colorado. Really neat guy, really funny guy. He has quite the story, very passionate. And it was just a joy to not only meet him, but render him. And I hope he enjoys this piece. And this was just charcoal and chalk, so very limited palette.
Wow. I love all the details.
I
Like
love
even
wrinkles.
in the eyes, even in the eyes.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost easier, I found, to render older people because of the wrinkles. It's I like getting in there and getting all those values, you know, in and out throughout the skin. I think it makes for a much more interesting portrait than a little baby skin.
Wow. And I love the curls on this one. Can't imagine
Yes.
why, but yes. There have been
Yeah.
moments I wake up looking like my hair is that crazy.
Don't we
love
all? Don't we all? Yes, so this is Clarabelle. I met her while I was in Tennessee at school at a assisting living place. And I think she said she was 101 when I had interviewed her. And I asked her about her life story. She had many interesting things about her life. She was born in a log cabin. Her brother came on horseback to get the doctor. I got the rundown. But she's a beautiful, beautiful human being. And if you come to the Horlock house, I've created booklets with a picture of all of the drawings along with kind of their most notable quote from all these interviews. And so if you come to the Horlock house, you can read through those and look at the works. I think that definitely provides more context to all the pictures. So.
Wow. Incredible. And you guys are open only on certain days at certain times or
Mhm.
by appointment. And so what are those days and times you guys are open?
Yes, so we're open Thursday through Sunday, noon to 5. And you can, request an appointment, but generally if you want to get a tour of the house, we're happy to give you that while you come in during those times. So
Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. And, huge thank you to the city of Navasota for making y'all's artist in residency program work, because without them, we couldn't make this happen. And I just love how the city of Navasota just swoops in, get y'all invited into all kinds of things, and they really take care of you guys. And I just think that's just a neat part of that program, how they really truly want you guys to succeed, and they're there for you. And so I just love that. City of Navasota.
they're
Big
they're the
shout
best.
out.
Especially thanks to Michelle and Bert the mayor. They're very involved in this program. It's really wonderful.
They are. I love how that whole city, it just amazes me. Now let's move on to Miss Amanda, who is in the city of Bryan. We couldn't do this program without the city of Bryan's help. And I know that you've been trying to get into First Fridays and meeting all the people over coffee. And so that's been a unique experience for you. And so Amanda, give us a little bit of background about who you are and why the Bryan Artist in Residency program.
Thank you, Sherry. My name is Amanda, and I work primarily as a figurative sculptor and a teacher of figurative sculpture. And when I applied for the Bryan Artist in Residency, I was reassured that I could be as reclusive or as social or both as I wished. And that's coming to fruition. I've had the opportunity to nest, to prepare to make contemplative works for a new body of work. And I've also been able, as you mentioned, Sherry, to get out into the community and meet other people. And I think that one of the greatest gifts so far for the time here has been having sister artists in residence. I think every residency I've had to date has been a solo position. And the opportunity to speak with Sienna and Sarah, and hopefully Monica going forward, has been really lovely.
Yeah, I love that, because what I think is really unique about all of y'all this go around is the different walks of life and what y'all have all gone through. And I feel like y'all are really going to share some unique things across the board with each and every one of you. And I think that not only when y'all leave here, y'all are going to continue to get together, I think, or at least keep in contact, which I think is really kind of neat. It's really neat how these programs really work together. And what I also think is unique is you're more into sculptures, right? Versus oil or charcoal, and this is a piece that you brought with you. And so tell us a little bit about this.
Right, yes. So I started doing portraits in my mid to late teens, and I thought I would be a painter. And I also was doing printmaking. Sculpture was a happy accident right at the end of my undergraduate career. And another happy accident was being asked to do public sculpture. This is the third of 4 pieces for a sculpture trail in the state of Vermont. And all of the pieces ultimately are carved in marble that speaks to the history of the marble industry in that area. Some of the quarries are closed, some of them are still active. And what we're looking at is the clay model of Julia Dorr, who was a Civil War era writer and philanthropist. And this model is 1.5 times life size, which is it's pretty big when you're standing next to it. At one point, I could stand up inside it when I was putting 2 pieces together. Wow. And her dress, the front and back, has 14 in total, 14 plants and animals, and they are illustrating one of her poems. So Julia really loved nature. It was a symbol for her spiritual path, and shows up in almost all of her works. She wrote novels, poems, and travel guides. And the poem I chose is called Over the Wall, in which a young girl goes out into the New England woods and exists in complete harmony with the plants and animals she finds there. Julia was also a champion of women. She was especially interested in raising women out of poverty. So this poem spoke to nature, to her faith, and to the feminine. And the finished work is installed outside of the library that Julia Dorr founded in Rutland. And it's not too far up off the ground. So the idea was that school children could easily access this design, perhaps even make a scavenger hunt out of it in terms of finding all the plants and animals.
Oh, wow. And this next piece, is that a close-up of what's going on?
Yes, this is a detail from the back. There's our Luna moth there. This is not my work. This is the work of my colleagues Evan Morse and Taylor Apostle. So when I'm hired on these projects, the ones in Vermont, I start with a sketch. I do a concept sketch for the committee, for the patrons. And then when that's approved, I move to the clay model, which we saw. And when that's complete, I make a mold, and I take a plaster copy out of the mold and deliver that to the carvers. The reason we do the plaster step is because clay is very malleable, it cracks. If I brought that and put it outside with someone carving it, it wouldn't withstand the elements of the work. The plaster enables the carvers to find points all over the surface of it, and they translate those points to the stone to bring the next copy out of the material. So Evan and Taylor, like myself, trained in Italy. They're highly skilled, and I've been grateful to work with them on as many projects as I have.
Wow, that's just incredible work. Sarah, Sienna, y'all got it? Do y'all have anything to say? I mean, my gosh, that's one and a half times. That's huge.
I want to I have a comment and I have a question. I just love the contrast between the face figure, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. Such detail, crisp, you model it, and then the hair is more blurry in the back. I love that contrast to make my eyes really focus on the face, her expression. And also love the idea you put her love of nature and all those on the body, on the figure. I have one question. What is that figure on the back? Almost looking like a stingray. Is that
Oh, this right here, that.
Yeah, is it bat or?
It's a Luna moth.
Luna moth. Oh.
They're very large. They're green. The male and female have differences. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, I think they have a very short lifespan, be hours or a day.
Wow, it sure is beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow.
I just want to say these are just so beautiful, and I just can't imagine how you can get so detailed. It's just so elegant and beautiful. How do you do that?
Well, you and I were talking about doing some sculpting together, and your work is very detailed. I think you're going to do fine in clay. I talk about sculpting as drawing in space. So for a lot of people who have a two-dimensional sensibility, it translates really well, whether you're doing a portrait in the round or relief like this. I think for people who like to draw, relief is especially exciting. It's an optical illusion between the 2D and 3D worlds. And once you get the basics of where you raise the planes and where you recede them and where you turn them, you're fine.
Wow. I love it. And then this next piece of art, I can't wait to hear the story on this one, because this one has a story, right?
I suppose they all have a story, and part of this artist residency, this was in Padre Island National Seashore here in Texas. Part of the requirements were to have a daily journal of your experience on the island published alongside the sculpture or the artwork when it's unveiled. And when I went to compile all my stories, my laptop had nothing on it. I lost all my stories. And it's disappointing because some of them were so poignant and unexpected. There were moments of danger on the island, as well as, soft and sweet moments. So the stories are embedded in this piece, and I think the positivity of them comes through to people, but they don't know the depth of it. So I'm just responding to your use of the word story there. Some lost and some embedded.
Yeah.
This piece is called One, and this is where my work has been going lately. So there's less of an overt representation of the human body. There are realistic depictions of plants and animals, as we'll see in a moment with the details, but symbolically, we're all in this. The body is referenced by these circles, and the circles are actually garbage. They come from the ocean. These are plastic bottle lids and caps that we're looking at, which are then filled with original fresco paintings and reliefs from some plant material I was given permission to gather. And I also, you can see it in the lower left and right, took impressions of natural and man-made marks that I found in the sand as I walked with the landscape. This was a huge leap of faith for me. Normally, I have an artwork finished in my mind. I have a vision of it and the title. And I went to Padre Island National Seashore to consciously depart from that and to allow the landscape and the divine to tell me what I would be making. And this is where I want to continue deepening my own creative explorations.
Wow.
These are details of the 12 motifs that repeat throughout that 7-foot diameter spiral. Because the bottle caps were so many different sizes, I had these motifs and then what I call babies. So the smaller caps have smaller details that reference each of these, which are speaking to the different areas of the landscape in Padre Island. They divide the island into 6 major areas. So I think there are 2 plants and 2 animals, more or less, for each of those areas.
That's incredible. And that was also done from like recycle work.
Yes, so the ground for the fresco paintings, I took sand from the seashore and mixed it with lime. And then again, you have the plant material. So found materials, natural materials, and then what we would call garbage or refuse or rubbish. And it's not, I want to say, because people don't care about the park, they care deeply about this landscape. Other people help me gather the caps and lids. Because of how the currents are arranged out in the ocean, a large amount of the plastic garbage can wash up on parts of the seashore there.
Wow. That's just beautiful. And all from recycled stuff. Wow. Incredible detail. You're not kidding, Sarah. That is some detail. Whoa. Sienna, you have a question?
Yeah, can I? I'm just blown away by your one. First question: that circular design, does that have any meaning? Number 2, in your detailed image, right? Am I understanding it right? You have the fresco, the painting, right? You use a sand to make the kind of like the wall, and then you paint on that. And then you also have the other is you make a mold. So there's these 2 kinds of different individuals in this artwork, right?
Yes. So we'll go backwards. Let's start with what you were just saying and echo what I was speaking about with Sarah a moment ago about 2D and 3D. I'm very interested in where they meet, the tension between those, the relationship between those. And this piece is both a sculpture and a painting, in a sense. So it has individual pieces, like you just said, are paintings, they're frescoes, and you have some reliefs. The whole thing, is it a painting or is it a sculpture? That's intentional. I like exploring that. As far as the circles go, circles show up frequently in my work, and I think there's a long list of of reasons why. I find them very healing. They're inclusive, they're feminine, and the list goes on and on from there. And the feedback I received some when people saw me installing the work, and sometimes people write after they've been to the island. People feel that inclusivity. Sometimes it's based on color. Sometimes it's based on a sense of the cosmos. I guess it's different for each person, but I'm glad that that comes across. And I think with the aid of the circle, perhaps.
Yeah. It's just beautiful. I could get lost in that. I mean, because you're looking at that and then you see like a close up, like I could probably sit there and stare at it for a very long time and still not see all the things that you have in it. Wow, that's just incredible. Incredible work, Amanda. I can't wait to see what you're going to show us next month. I can't wait to see what all y'all are going to show us next month.
Yes.
And a huge thank you to the City of Bryan and also Chris Lawrence and all that the BCS Modern does to help house you. And Chris is, I think this is one of his favorite projects. I think he is just super charming on making this thing happen with the City of Bryan. And so we couldn't do this without BCS Modern and fantastic group of people. And so thank you all so much for joining us. But before we go anywhere, since we were talking about recycle art, the three of you guys did some judging today. So how was judging the recycle art today?
I feel it's, first of all, it's such a privilege to judge this art. Usually we are the one being judged.
Right.
And we had fun, and also it's quite inspiration how to see the people, like the kids, how they come up with the idea, use the recycled material and create beautiful art.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and there was y'all also entered into the adult ones, and I don't remember who judged that, so I can't wait to see how that one turned out. I'm super excited. So if you want to see what the kids have done and the adults have done in their recycle art day, come out to the Arts Council tomorrow between 4:30 and 6 and have some refreshments, walk around the recycle art, talk to the artists and see what their thoughts were behind recycle art. And I think Amanda is actually going to be on KBTX, I think either tonight or tomorrow, talking about the recycle art day. And so that's going to be super exciting. And one of the things that we also do here at the Arts Council is membership. And so if you have a business, an individual, one of our affiliates, or even associates or an artist, and you want to join the Arts Council, just go onto our website. There's tons of information, and we would love to help and support you. And so as I wrap it up, a huge thank you to the City of Bryan, City of College Station, the City of Navasota, BCS Modern, for helping housing us with City of Bryan. And then we have Twin City Properties who help us with the City of College Station. And of course, we couldn't do all the things that we do without the people who support the Arts Council. And ladies, we're going to do this again next month, and I can't wait to see what you guys bring to the show, because I just absolutely love all your work, and it's been a joy to work with each and every one of you. So we will see y'all next month.
Yes. Thank you, Cherie.
Thank you, Sheree.
Thank you.